Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for showing up to our weekly edition of All Things Extended Enterprise. Today's session is on the 2014 Extended Enterprise LMS Marketplace. I'm John Lay, the CEO and lead analyst of Talented Learning. And it looks like we have a lot of new faces here today that haven't been here before. And we'll have some old regulars, so nice to see everybody again. And thanks for your continued participation. So like always, we start right at the top of the hour. We go 30 minutes. We squeeze in as much information as we can, and we'll give you a chance to ask questions at the end. If I get verbose, which is possible, we will just submit your questions online there in the GoToMeeting question box there on your panel. And if I don't get to them here in the session, I'll follow up with you as always here personally after the call today. So let's get into it. So today's agenda is about the 2014 LMS Marketplace. We're going to go ahead and give you a real brief overview to frame the discussion on Extended Enterprise. And then we're going to talk about our research and the marketplace overview and all its different phases, and discuss how we came around to grouping the 600 plus LMSs here into 5 broad categories. And we're going to look at each category, kind of define what it is, who's in it, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of buying and deploying one of those vendor solutions for your extended enterprise. And then we'll have, as I mentioned before, question and answer. So here we go. So what is extended enterprise learning? So as many of you know, because we talk about it a lot, it's any learning technology program that's targeted towards non-employees. Non-employees are all those people that don't work for you. They're voluntary users. They're voluntary interactors with your content or with your marketing message or with anything that you do. You can't compel them to do anything. And as a result, extended enterprise learning is really its own field separate than internal employee learning management, which has similar yet very different challenges. Extended enterprise learning happens in every industry globally. You can't pick an industry or a sub-industry or a sub-sub-industry that is not educating their non-employees or their extended enterprise. And they do it through a combination of marketing and education, because it's not just with your internal employees. You have the voluntary nature, or rather the mandatory nature of taking training, and as a result, you can take different strategies to get them to take training. Namely, you can just make them take training. But when you can't make somebody do something, then you need the marketing aspects. So you need to think about CRM systems and bringing in new prospects and converting those prospects and cross-selling and upselling and reselling to customers over time. And all of that is different than an internal learning management system. And so next week on our webinar, we'll go into each one of these in detail and frame it out for you. But there's really 5 types as defined by me anyway. The corporate, which is all of those efforts that are geared towards your distribution channel, your partners, your agents, your customers, your users, all those audiences that interact after or during the sale of your product. There's member organizations or associations that develop and sell content and knowledge and collaboration for a living. There's the for-profit training companies, and so they're like stars in the sky of training companies of all sizes, sorts, and shapes that sell content, both online and instructor-led content to populations around the world. And so they have their own breed and set of requirements. There's the public sector, which is all those either just for the good of the public or things that are tied to like healthcare reform or things that are tied to, I just encountered an organization that had the police were, instead of getting points on your license, you could pay them to take an online course on safety driving, and so they turned it into a double revenue stream to give tickets and then educate and then get the benefits of educating. And then finally the academic sector, continuing education outreach and MOOCs and so forth that focus on not training the university employees or school employees, but everybody else, and in most cases drive it towards profit. And that's really the key of extended enterprise learning, is it's a business and it's not a cost center. In all of the cases of all the 5 types of extended enterprise, they're all about either making money, saving money, or reducing the cycle time to do things like product rollout or reach your audience. And so it's all about a measurable business. And so as a result, you need a different set of evaluation criteria, and that's where Talented Learning steps in. We're an extended enterprise learning news, research, and consulting organization. We live extended enterprise. That's all we do. And I personally made my living on it for now almost 20 years. And in beginning of 2014, I co-founded Talented Learning to be an independent analyst that cover this industry. And so there's lots and lots of analysts in the industry that cover any aspect of talent management, learning management, but none of them focus on the non-employee aspects of it. And I could never understand that the whole time I've been making my living on it, as someone that sold learning management systems previously for 13 years. But there was nowhere to go for best practices or deeper thoughts. So anyway, that's what we founded our company on, and that's what we do in research. We talk about all aspects of the functional, the technical, LMS reviews, learning technology reviews in general, anything that you need to make your extended enterprise program more successful. We research the industry, and then we do a weekly blog and a webinar about all things extended learning. And so, which leads us to what is this LMS research? And so I spent 13 years, as I said, selling LMS solutions, and I became an expert in understanding extended enterprise and learning management in general, but extended enterprise requirements, because I had started off my career building extended enterprise e-learning projects almost 20 years ago for channel solution and customer solution for high-tech companies. And it was a combination of marketing and education all the way back then. And so brought that forward to selling them, and then I started off taking that knowledge, and I said, okay, if we start going out to different LMSs, let's review everything that's publicly available on their site. We'll interview their CEOs, COOs, executives, clients, salespeople, marketing people, whoever I could talk to. I'm in the hundreds now here so far in 2014 that I talk. I ask a lot of them the same questions around functional and technical. I look for case studies, extended enterprise case studies. I inquire about service offering, value propositions, their business model, how they make money, where they want to make it, what they're good at winning, where they want to play in the marketplace, who their top competitors are, so I could try to make some sense of the marketplace. I've taken guided demos, and whenever I can, I've opened up self-exploration accounts and toward both the administrative and the end user interface. So far today, I've reviewed in 2014 58 LMSs, and now I'm doing one almost, maybe not every day, but every other day at this point. Last week, it was every day. So that's where I'm getting this research from. And so when you look at the 2014 marketplace, even though I was in it for all those years at one side of the market selling high-end learning management systems, it's impossible to know, nor is it possible to have enough time to do the research to understand where the other 599 LMSs are playing in the marketplace. And so when you look at the marketplace, depending on who's giving you the analysis, it's like the old proverb here, or the old poem about the elephant, and if you're blindfolded, all the different places that you can touch it, and you would come to, of course, a different conclusion. And that's the way the LMS is. There's countless awards in countless categories. Craig Weiss, who runs that 24/7 blog, gives awards out for everything. And so does Brandon Hall and Josh Burson and Tagoras. And when you add up all these awards, they're all slightly worded differently, that if you just take a peek from the outside, you would think that there's 600 different categories or types of LMSs, let alone LMSs. I've broken it down into these 5. We'll get into this in a second. Talent, cloud, industry, standalone, and extended enterprise. But you may say, well, geez, what about next gen, video, social, mobile, gamified, e-commerce, and industry, employee, traditional LMS, old school LMS, open source LMS? these are all different categories that could viably be their own. But I found that by grouping like with like, all those other names really spanned across those 5 categories that I did come up with: talent, cloud, industry, standalone, and extended enterprise. And they all fit into a couple of different categories. And so I folded those in, as you'll see. And so where to start here on the marketplace? Well, I think that the place to start is with the old guard. So if you've been in the industry as long as I have, you know that the old guard LMSs, they were the LMSs that were acquired by the HR and the talent providers over the last few years. I don't even think it's done. I heard that. I didn't go to Elliot Mazy's conference here last week, but I heard he's indicating that another big one's about ready to get acquired here in our industry. There's not too many left of the big ones, but they've been acquired and folded into these broader solutions to focus on internal employees. And so they're tied in with performance management, succession planning, and the such. And they really have an internal employee focus. The ironic thing is that the LMS providers, these were the former Tier 1 providers here in the last 5 years, all had a focus on extended enterprise. We all did. It was such an important part of the industry. You would never think about just selling, when I was selling learning management systems, you would never think about just doing it to the internal employees and never asking or acquiring or trying to fold in external audiences. It was just all part of the same effort that every LMS vendor was thinking. But then when the talent LMS vendors, or rather the Tier 1s, got acquired by the talent LMS, all focus was to integrating their broad suites of platforms and tying the database and the user interface together. And everybody just kind of forgot about extended enterprise. I made a living for about 3 years with virtually no competition in that space because all the Tier 1s had forgot about it. Tier 1 LMS providers are also expensive. They're owned by Oracle, SAP. You can't help but they have a high price on all their different modules. Oracle has dozens, maybe 50. So does SAP. So does all the ones on the list. People Fluent, to a lesser degree, have all these different modules or suites of products that fold into each other, share data. And so talent LMS providers typically are folded into much broader initiatives. And so they're not really out competing in the open marketplace. If SAP is running your global business and they want to throw in a learning management system as part of a bigger purchase, there's not a whole lot that can happen from an ownership standpoint at the learning and development or the HR level that could stop that type of effort being pushed down upon them. It's not impossible, but it's really tough. As a result, you don't see these things going up to bid where these 5 competitors almost never compete against each other, except when one of them's getting thrown out, and then the other one's coming in and to sweep. But there is 3 that I consider the most dangerous in the marketplace, and that's Saba, Cornerstone, and now Skillsoft, or SumTotal, still going by SumTotal. But they all found a different way to be integrated into talent suites. Saba built their own. Cornerstone, for the most part, built their own integrated talent suite, and SumTotal acquired their own piece by piece, but they put it all together very nicely and neatly from a database and a UI perspective. But all 3 of them still come at the world from a learning perspective versus from a talent perspective. And so those 3 really command some of the highest end projects that are available in the world between them. The advantages of Talent Suite LMS providers is that they do have strong capabilities, even though they don't focus on them. The more and more you see, I saw recently SumTotal releasing a whole toolkit on extended enterprise, and Saba doing a whole series of webinars, and I'm actually guest presenting some of those webinars and blog posts on extended enterprise. So you're starting to see a shift back to that now. So they have those great capabilities and C-level connections. The problem is that if you're just trying to build your business case and launch an extended enterprise effort that doesn't have 100,000 users, or you want to grow it and build it, it's almost impossible to start with them due to the upfront cost and the license cost. So unless you already have a Talent Suite LMS, for your internal employees, it's typically not the best place to look when it comes to looking for your extended enterprise. So if you're getting forced to have a Talent Suite LMS, well, then worse things could happen. You can at least make it work, and if you're getting forced, the price point is already well known from an executive standpoint. So standalone LMSs. So these used to be the Tier 2 LMSs. Now they're the Tier 1 LMSs. These are all the folks that have been around in the industry. Very rarely are these less than 5 years old, maybe more. They typically are on the second generation of their product in the sense that they weren't ready originally for mobile, which kind of sprung upon everybody, and social to an extent. And so a lot of them are retrofitting their applications to support those feature sets that are mandatory in extended enterprise type initiatives. And so standalone LMSs right now are getting the most complex LMS-only projects that are available in the world. So hundreds of thousands of users. When it's not necessarily important, whether it's for your internal employees or your extended enterprise, when it's not necessarily important or mandatory or critical to tie into all the other performance and talent management systems, then the standalone LMSs almost always win. They'll beat out the talent LMSs, and they'll beat out most of the smaller LMSs, especially when the projects are more complex. The standalone LMSs have deep professional services group. They're trusted advisors. They try to guide you both in business and the configuration and the business of your learning initiative, and to varying degrees they help you do that. Standalone LMSs always require implementation fees. Because they're more complex, you just can't turn them on and walk away. You really need guiding to help set up your feeds to your HR system or your ERP or your CRM system. The different enterprise systems that exist in your organization, they're the ones that help you do that. They're usually your second or your third LMS if you're going for a standalone. Very rarely do people pay for a standalone LMS when it's their first, because they don't know the challenges of learning management system yet, so the apparent advantages of a standalone are invisible to you, rather, unless you're an experienced buyer. So standalone LMSs are when you got a serious learning problem, you need a serious solution. So who are they? There's a lot of them, but here are who I think some of the best are. Core Expertus, you see Absorb a lot. WBT Systems is out of Ireland. Has been doing this for a long time. Net Dimensions, Meridian, Latitude Learning. Posted a real nice case study from them about the work they're doing with Chrysler and GM, their extended enterprise dealers, and also their internal employees. Real sophisticated organization. KMI Learning, working on nice channel and portal type things based for professional education along certain topics, supply chain management, things like that. So really nice, sophisticated solutions there. The advantages, they're full featured. They've got great experience in extended enterprise. They've got all the help you need to get you going. You can typically negotiate pretty friendly license arrangements. They're not public organizations, so you have some flexibility to negotiate what's appropriate. Disadvantages is that they are expensive if this is your first initiative. Once again, if you have to come up with implementation fees of $15,000 to $100,000, depending on who it is, you have to have a pretty good business case, or you have to already be on your second or third LMS to realize why you would want to spend that type of money on consulting. If you can't articulate that, or you can't articulate that internally to your executives more specifically, then a standalone LMS typically will be too expensive for you. There's a lot of historical baggage on those also. Many of those companies have acquired other companies, and they've got multiple platforms, and they have their perpetual platform, and now they have their cloud-based platform. And so standalone LMSs, you have to be diligent or be a smart buyer. In all cases, you want to be a smart buyer. So the next group is cloud-based LMSs. So this is the most exciting group. It's also almost the backbone of the next two groups, too, that we'll get into. The cloud-based LMSs have changed the game. They have come out the marketplace differently. They've built multi-tenant solutions, meaning that they have one code base that all of their customers are on simultaneously. And when they do upgrades, which are typically on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis, they have the ability to apply and install those upgrades at one time to everybody in their client base. And then that client base, depending on the vendor, has different options of accepting or delaying or rejecting those new enhancements. And so what you have is a continually evolving platform that provides more and more value and functionality. And so as you're getting into learning management system, getting in with a cloud-based, whether that's internal or external, getting into one of the cloud-based LMSs allows you to kind of get in cheap now and grow with them. You never know how expensive or inexpensive they'll be in the future, but it does allow you to get the project off the ground quicker. And as I've mentioned multiple times here, I've sold LMSs for all those years, and one of the things I couldn't help but see is that projects prospective projects could go on for a year or 2 years or 3 years as they were trying to get funding. And I was always selling high-end LMSs, so I'm saying that you need all this budget and all this money to get going, and they would delay the project for another year or 2 years to achieve that budget. And in the end, in retrospect, as I look back, it'd be better to go with a very base system, get your solution off the ground running and start measuring that ROI, and then you can build from there. Anyway, that is what cloud LMSs can do for you. They go by all the names. These are all the awards that you see. The best next gen, the mobile, social, gamified, e-commerce, they're all the same thing. I say they're all cloud LMSs. They're all modern. They're all mobilely responsive, meaning that you can use them on any device without any plugins, go device to device. They also have the advantage of having these connectors to other cloud applications. So the best one in the bunch is Docebo from a connector standpoint, and you can just plug in any virtual tool or any email tool or any business application, and they have right now about 25 different connectors that exist that you can just check a box. Yes, I want it, and I'll pay for it, or not. And so you can tie it to all these different applications. And what the advantage that gives you is sharing things like data or sharing parts of the LMS inside some customer portals, but not others, or selling content at different rates, different links to e-commerce systems. All that provides a whole bunch of flexibility and capability for the cloud LMS providers that they don't have to develop on their own. They just leverage what's out there, and you only pay for it when you really need it. And that's a real smart way to go. Some of the ones that you see in this group is MindFlash, Docebo, who I was just talking about, Litmos, Digital Chalk, ePath, Talent LMS, Saba and Cornerstone belong in this group and the Talent LMS because they both have pure cloud, as I'm defining, offerings, regardless of whether they have other integrated talent suites in there. They all fight it out, every one of these on every deal. You typically can get free trials. You can evaluate the systems online. They take the process of letting you self-educate yourself wherever you can, so providing as much blogs and case studies and how-to guides and video tutorials as you can digest. And if all those things match up to you and you still want to buy their system, they're more than happy to do it. And they did that all without any active or very minimal active sales engagement. And so that is how they're competing back and forth here for all this new business inside the industry. And so what's the balance here, the advantages to disadvantages? Well, it's easy to, most times cost-free to set up. You can start your free trial. You can go to Docebo or MindFlash right now after this call and establish a free trial account without a credit card and start playing around administratively, loading up content, seeing how it looks. And so there's certainly some advantages to doing that if it's your first or your beginning. If you don't need a lot of help or guidance, that's a real great advantage. The API connector I talked about, and the easy business models. You'll see that every one of them. So when I was selling LMSs, we waited to see how long we could talk about pricing because we were trying to sell a high-end solution. And so we were trying to solve business problems, and in the end, did it really matter what it cost if it was going to solve this problem? Well, the cloud LMSs said, you know what, everybody complains about that approach. We're just going to put our pricing on our website, and once again, you can pre-qualify yourself. And at first, we all thought it was the worst idea in the world in the industry, and now the brilliance of it is just great, because it allows you to put your solution out there, let people price it, and when it's reasonable or in the budget range, then you're pre-qualified as you engage into the sales process. So it's better for the buyer, it's better for the consumer in the end. The disadvantages, if you need help, they don't have it. You need a partner, or you need to hire some help from a professional service standpoint. Cloud providers are newer, so they just have less configurations, less ways to do the same thing. Now, if you're new, that's great, because just do it the way that they recommend, and life will be easy. If you're on your second or third LMS, that's not always an option. You have business processes inside your organization that you need to replicate, and you just can't rip out an LMS and tell the whole world to do things differently. So there is the need to have multiple configurations or multiple ways to approach the same problem that the standalone LMS providers do, the cloud don't. So let's move on to the next group, the extended enterprise LMSs. So out of the 600, I think 550 are this group. What's really great from my perspective as somebody that focuses on extended enterprise space and likes the extended enterprise space, of course, I just can't believe the amount of diversity that's just in this group alone. And so this group, this is the main qualification. You have to ignore internal employees. Anybody on this group admits, doesn't care, doesn't want to talk to HR, doesn't know what talent means, has no idea about any of that stuff, and they don't care, and if you bring it up to them, they don't care. Because it's not about that. It's about solving a problem, looking outside your organization, and they make the argument that, listen, you need two LMSs. You need one for your internal employees, and you need one that supports your extended enterprise. And the two are so different that it just doesn't behoove you to combine the efforts. And so these are training companies, channel and customers we talked about, the pure B2B LMSs. They all focus on providing a measurable business case, and all provide a measurable business case. This is a slide, I think. And sell it on that business case. And so some names that you see is Ethos, Quest CE, KMI Learning shows up kind of in a couple different places. Digital Ignite, who I got a demonstration with the other day, that just provides just outstanding channel solutions for the high-end growth engineering and their sales channel type efforts. The whole bunch that just focus just on these training companies, Firmwater, BrainCert, Access Planet. Functional LMSs, they do what they do well, and that's great. The disadvantages, they have limited scope and they're easy to outgrow. So when it's all about the extended enterprise, you typically don't outgrow them. If you try to branch out into internal employee, you almost always outgrow them. Last group is, and just like every webinar, I apologize, folks, I cram so much in here and I get to talking and I run out at the end. Industry LMSs are the last one. Industry LMSs are typically cloud LMSs that are purchased by industry experts who rebrand them as their own LMSs. And then they bring their expertise in terms of professional services, content development, assembled content to the table as part of the solution. And so they go into hospitals or mining organizations or lumber companies or you name it. They have a very targeted, specific solution just for franchises, just for tool manufacturers, and as a result, they have all the pieces already in place. They've already proven it in the industry with similar companies. The buying organizations need to do it. They know they have to get into learning management or extended enterprise learning management, and by going this route, it's safe, it's proven, it's cost effective. So industry LMSs, they come in every industry. Just an example of them: HealthStream, Risk. There's banking, financial, insurance. For every one of these organizations, there's dozens of them. The advantages: they're a great first LMS. The technology works. It's in the cloud. It has all the advantages of the cloud technology. it looks like your company, and you can just get in without thinking about it. And these range from very simple to very complex solutions that are available. The disadvantage is you're not buying an LMS. You're buying a solution. And so the LMS, depending on how they white label it or who they white label it from, or if they build it themselves, it's almost inevitably behind what it would be if you have a more pure LMS like a cloud or a standalone LMS. If you're not looking to be on the bleeding cutting edge and willing to stay back from that edge a few steps and have a proven solution, even if it's not as shiny or as fast, then industry LMSs are good for you. So I think the most important point of today as we slide into home base here is extended enterprise requires some sort of tailored LMS. We grouped them into those 5 categories, though arguably it could be more or less depending on what is the lens or the tape measure that you're using to evaluate the marketplace. No LMS is good for everyone, but every LMS is good for someone, and I truly believe that. In this 58 LMSs that I reviewed, I find what everybody is strong at and what everybody is not so strong at. But what I focus on is what they're strong at, because that's where their client base is and that's where they've been driving their product. And if you need those strengths, you should be able to find those strengths. And if you do, you'll have the best chance of matching a partner. If you just ask the vendors, you'll find that everybody can do everything, but you really have to dig that second level deeper. And we'll tell you how to do that here in upcoming weeks. You got to find yours by being smart. Find your next LMS or your first LMS. And how do you be smart? Well, one way in extended enterprise, you can keep on coming to these webinars every week. Next week, we're going to dig into the 5 types of extended enterprises that we talked about. We're going to go into a case study on each one, maybe visit their live sites where possible, just to show you the difference, especially if you have experience with internal LMSs, just to show you the difference, what's out there. Coming up every week here through the rest of 2014, every Tuesday at 1, we've got an extended enterprise. Here's just some of them. Still another 4 or 5 that are scheduled. You can get to those at talentedlearning.com on our /webinars, or just go to Talented Learning to sign up for our blog. We talk about this if this interests you. We're going to talk about the top 15 features, how to build your certification program, how to build the business case for it, how to get rid of your existing LMS, things that you have to keep in mind to launch your LMS, feature sets like social learning and how they can enhance your extended enterprise. And so all of these programs all focused on helping you get smarter if you already have any initiative or you're thinking about one. So thanks again for attending this week. And these are different ways that you can communicate with me. Please LinkedIn with me if you haven't. That's my personal email there, of course. And the blog at talentedlearning.com. As I said, weekly post. Yesterday's post was about the top 10 channel learning case studies that I found. I reviewed about 50 different channel learning case studies and selected 10 that I thought really showed the best measurable return on investment. And so you can go to the blog and see that. So that's it today, as we're a few minutes over. So I see there is a couple questions here, so I will fire those off here in the next half hour, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.